You're listening to Rated R, Bamster's podcast, and what are you doing with your life?
Yes, guys, we are back. Booker and Bam are back. We are here to bring you some glorious CES news. Booker, say hi to everybody.
Hello.
Booker, it's been a while since you and I did a podcast, so please, guy, do tell us, what are we in for today?
Well, there's obviously lots and lots of things going on at CES, so we're just going to cast an eye over a few of them. And it's wonderful being back on the pod with you, Bamster.
It's been a while, dude. It's been a while. Back in the saddle. Yeehaw.
Yes, it's like remembering the last time you had norovirus. You know.
It's about as painful as that. Yes, I totally agree. Now, onto the news from CES, dude. There was quite a lot there. A lot about VR, a lot about the TVs in 4K and 8K, a lot about smart systems in cars and Super 8 cameras and Oakley running glass, blah, 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 blah. Booker, you're the tech guy. Please tell me, what do I need to pay attention to?
Well, obviously there was VR everywhere, but I'm going to have a little chat with everybody about VR a little bit later on in the podcast, so we'll leave that for then.
Yep.
I'm going to resist the temptation of going into vast and huge depth about a refrigerator with which you could tap the door and look inside it, which everybody seems to be hugely fascinated with. But
I agree. Open the frickin' door. I mean, good God.
If you want to pay $5,000 for a fridge which you can actually look inside without opening the door, fill your boots. Like I say, I'm generally quite happy to open the door, personally. But moving on to stuff that's actually interesting, 4K TVs were all over CES this year and looking as beautiful as ever. The main thing with 4K TV is a lot of people are saying, where's the content? Now, there is a perception out there that there isn't content for 4K TV, but there are two things you need to know about 4K TV and the content. One is a wonderful thing called upscaling, just to start with. Do you understand about upscaling, Bam?
No, I don't, and that was one of my questions I was going to ask you. 4K TV doesn't seem to have a lot of stuff out there, and I'm glad you've corrected me, so please do carry on, sir.
Well, I'm not saying like it's coming out of the wallpaper, but I had figured you wouldn't know what upscaler meant because it's got like 3 syllables in it. So let's go.
Yep. Beer, bro. Beer. It's the beer.
Okay, so if you're buying a 4K TV, and let's face it, if you're buying a TV now, you should not be buying really anything other than a 4K TV. They're down to such ridiculously cheap prices compared to what they were several years ago. So if you're in the market for a TV, that's where you should be heading. Now, as far as upscaling is concerned, all 4K TVs now pretty much, if they're worth their money, have got what's called upscaling capabilities, which is a kit that is inside the TV itself. And what it will actually do is through some very clever algorithms, it will fill in the gaps between the 1080p signal that you would be getting from, say, most of your HD Blu-rays or streaming content you got now, and it will actually very cleverly fill in all the gaps between those pixels, so that it comes out into a 4K image, and you will get virtual 4K quality pictures from your 1080p or HD Blu-ray or streaming services. So that's one cool thing. So although you think you've not got content out there, generally if you're watching HD stuff, you should have a very much improved picture quality on your 4K TV. Now, on the other side of the coin, clearly there are just now coming onto the market 4K Blu-ray players coming out. Then they're not super cheap, and the general consensus that you hear from CES is this is probably the last time you'll see a physical player that's going to play you content, i.e. films, underneath your TV sitting there all shiny. I think at the end of the day, you're going to be going to like some kind of hard drive system, or it'll all be on streaming. But the general consensus is that the days of physical players are actually coming to an end.
The death of disc. Unfortunately, CES 2016 was the death of the disc, sadly. And it's going to be a sad thing to see the disc go, because I remember the compact laserdisc. You remember that, Booker? The compact laserdisc. And now look at us, Blu-ray, and In a matter of decades, the disc is dead. Shame.
But it doesn't stop at 4K, Bam. Really? I hear you ask?
Yeah, I'm asking what? It doesn't stop at 4K. I've got a 4K TV, dude, and I tell you what, it is delicious for the eye parts. Delicious. Mmm.
Okay. Well, lucky you. I have one actually that I'm about to install because I was sensible and went out in the sales. But I'm waiting for the TV stand, so it's sitting in my front room and I can't look at it yet. How frustrating is that? Anyway, but the future of 4K actually lies within HDR and the quantum dot.
The quantum dot? Are we talking about quantum mechanics, Booker? Why are quantum mechanics interfering with my TV viewing deliciousness?
Okay, well, the quantum dot is integral to the HDR train that is heading towards us over the next couple of years. Now, 4K TV, beautiful, gorgeous, lovely, but they will get better, and they won't need to get better by going up to 8K. They will get better by using HDR, which is high dynamic range. And for those of you who don't know, high dynamic range is a system by which you are able to produce more natural and a broader spectrum of more natural color than is available even on 4K TVs now. And they do this by using the quantum dot. Now, quantum dot is a particle that is literally about 50 atoms big, 5 to 10 nanometers. And nanometers, Bam, isn't how fast your grandmother can walk down the street, just in case you're asking. It's a very, very small thing.
Right, it's not like a parsec, is it?
No. And the quantum dots, they change in size, and it's their change in size that gives them the different colors that they can project. And so you can very precisely change the size of these particles, these quantum dot particles, and then they can literally produce any color that you could think of in a natural that we could. It'd be like more like looking out your window and not looking in a TV. And they can also do it brighter. So if you imagine you're panning into the sun and you're looking into the sun, you know, in real life, it's too bright to look at, right? But you can't get that effect on a TV because they cannot shine that bright for you. But if you do that with a TV on high dynamic range, then you will actually have a portion of the screen that is too bright for you to look at, and then goes all the way down into deepest black. And it's that is the high dynamic range and the natural colors that people are going for. And in actual fact, LCD TVs will also benefit greatly from high dynamic range because they will be able to put the quantum dots in there and give the high dynamic range to an LCD TV. So the death of the LCD TV isn't here yet.
Right, Booker. Moving swiftly on. I want to talk a bit more about the drones. I want to get myself a drone. There was a drone at CES. What do you know about drones at CES?
Mate, you've caught me on one of my subjects I haven't really sort of like got myself into too much yet. Drones are everywhere. We know drones are everywhere. There was something like, I think the figures from the States, something like 1 million drones were given for Christmas presents this year. And it's become such an issue that the American is it the Federation of American Airports or something like that, anyway, whatever they're called, are actually requiring drones over a certain size to be actually registered, and the pilots and owners actually registered. They've already had issues where fires have not been able to have helicopters go over forest fires and put them out, you know, with the aircraft watering them, because news services have been using drones to film them, and they were completely unable to get to the area. And so they're causing a bit of a ruckus in legal grounds because there's no legislation out there to cover them.
Well, I do know there was a CIA dude that crashed a drone into the White House. I think it was last year. So yes, the CIA is spying on the president.
Yeah. So my brother's got a drone. I'll tell you, those things, they are bloody hard to control, especially if you've got a bit of a wind going around the place. So personally, I don't want to spend a whole load of money on something I'm likely to smash into the ground at a fast rate of knots. So I haven't looked into it too much. But the amazing thing, there's a Chinese company out there who were displaying at CES this week a one-man carrying drone. You could sit in this thing. It looks like a little bubble car with the drone copter things that coming out the side. It's got something like half an hour of battery time, which would worry me a little bit. But basically, this thing can take off with a man inside it and fly you around for half an hour, which would be great for missing the traffic as long as your flight time is less than 30 minutes. I don't know where you charge it up again at the other end, but hey ho.
I think I might need to use that to rob CCP Newcastle, because I am quite literally a stone's throw away from that place, so I might have to go and speak to this Chinese company.
But that looks fun. But yes, mate, I can't give you any specifics on drones from my own personal log of knowledge in this rusty old brain of mine, other than they are where it's at right now. Man, there's stuff everywhere. You've got clothes that tell you your temperature. You've got floating skateboards. You've got health monitors. You've got glasses that don't make you look like a pervert. I'm looking at you, Google.
Yeah, that's that Zeiss glass, isn't it? Yeah.
Zeiss glass. Yeah, it looks really cool. Just like a pair of glasses. They can use the curved lens, just like a normal pair of glasses. In fact, you'll probably be able to use your prescription lenses and have this thing in. There's a little raised piece on the inside of the glasses on one side, and that's the only indication that you basically got information being beamed into your eyeballs on the inside
Much
of your
better
glass.
and ergonomically designed than the Google Glass, actually.
Indeed, it doesn't make you look like some weird pervert with a camera on your glasses. The ZEISS Zeiss glasses. If you want to look those up, I think they could have some. It's only in sort of like a prototype stage at the moment, but very interesting tech, and there's so much interesting tech out there.
I was actually quite keen to look at the tablets and phones, but we're actually going to hold off on that because Barcelona is happening next week, and we will bring all the tablety and phone business and news to you actually from next week on, because obviously that thing, Booker.
Mate, there'll be lots of announcements, lots of phone and tablet tech coming out next week. It'd be pretty pointless going over bits and pieces now, just before what is a major event. We'd like to have a lot more news to hear from that.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Right, now, Booker, on that note, you've got some things to tell us about VR. So please, Booker, tell us about VR.
This is Bam Stroker, and you're listening to Rated R, Bamster's podcast. The other Bamster, not this Bam.
I have been shafted. Yeah, you heard me right. I have an Oculus Rift size imprint hard against the sphincter, and I'm telling you, it hurts. It's my own fault. I let it tease me. Enjoyed every moment, in fact. I hungrily devoured hours of video. It had no shame. It loved the attention, you could tell. It never, ever missed the opportunity to wrap itself round a new face to show off some VR love, while someone videoed every moment. I was swept off my feet, and even though I knew others lusted for it as much as I, there was no doubt in my mind that the Rift loved me best. It was made for me. A match made in VR heaven. A childhood fantasy come true. I saved myself for it too. Spurning the inferior dev kits, not wanting to sully my VR cherry until it was with the real thing. I mean, what was the point? They will all cost about the same, right? Patience is a virtue. The climax worth the maintenance of purity, anticipation building, as the pre-order day approached, like a virgin bride the night before her wedding. Then... Fucking how much? Oh, Oculus, you whore! You didn't love me best after all. I was just one anonymous face amongst a multitude, inflamed with lust, bloated further by false promises. I am left feeling soiled and, well, excluded. Okay, enough of dodgy metaphors and half-assed innuendo. As you might have guessed, I'm a tad miffed at the Oculus price reveal. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to suddenly go all anti-Rift on you. The thing is a miracle of modern technology. I love it, I really do, and that's the problem. Something that I had thought within my grasp was wrenched from my twitching fingers like the ultimate last-second end-zone interception. Game over. How on earth could Palmer Luckey and his band of merrymakers not know that when you consistently state that you are aiming for a consumer price of between $200 and $400 and never attempt to correct that perception before your public reveal, then a lot of people are going to get properly narked? I'm from the UK and I work in the health service. What this should tell you is that I don't do what I do for the big bucks. Nevertheless, even at the top of that $200 to $400 price range, I could save for a few months and go for it. I could just about justify the expenditure to my totally gaming ignorant fiancée because I could show her some amazing things on it, and she may probably understand why I was so drawn to it to the extent that she would almost certainly start speaking to me again within a matter of weeks. But no matter how long I saved up for it, there is no way I could justify blowing the best part of £600 on a Rift. Oh, yes, darling, I know we need a new bathroom and all, but this thing has a strap and makes you nauseous and everything. I'm pretty sure I know how that conversation ends, and I've been arse-raped by Oculus Rift once already this week. So, where do I go from here? My gut tells me that there is a Rift in my future, but not as an early adopter. More likely second gen when it's twice as powerful for half the money. I mean, just look at HD TV. It quite literally stands at roughly 1/5 of its price from 2 years ago. This is a trend with all technologies, and it's the enthusiasts who pay the cutting-edge premium because they are, well, enthusiastic. Those who are patient, or let's face it, just blissfully ignorant, and buy into new tech 1 or 2 years in, get amazing products for a fraction of its original price, and that's when it goes mainstream. But I'm not a patient man. I love my gadgets and I love my gaming, so there is no way I'm missing this train. As far as the realistic releases go for this year, I'm down to the HTC Vive Pre and Sony's PSVR. The Vive is starting to look cooler by the minute, although you won't look cool wearing it. Details were revealed this week of the latest iteration, the Pre, that incorporates a front-facing camera and some clever software that allows you to gain your bearings in a room at the press of a button, and then hide it just as easily. This is a massive trump card over the Rift, and it would be very interesting to see how the developers utilise this tech in VR. Tech demos featuring the climbing of Everest and a 3D painting app using bespoke controllers have also met with universal acclaim. But, and it is a big but, I can't see this coming in at a low price unless Steam grow a pair of enormous gonads and go for the undercut. I mean, the opportunity is there, right? They are coming second to the party and the opposition has laid their cards on the table first. Is it possible that they could subsidise the living shit out of the price of a Vive for the establishment of a large user base? It has to be tempting, surely. How many Rift pre-orders get cancelled if you crash the party with a $400 or less Vive headset, with bespoke controllers available at launch and not several months late? I dare not hope, so I leave the speculation there. I suspect in the real world, the Vive has enough tech in it to be at least as expensive in the Rift, and the required gonad growth sadly lacking to put it in at my price range. That leaves me with good old Sony. Despite being constantly undermined by commentary that assumes that as it is for the console device, it will clearly be inferior, I'm looking at you, PC Master Race. The PSVR rarely elicits disappointment from those lucky enough to experience it. There really is a remarkable opportunity for Sony here that I sincerely hope they grasp with everything they have with a grip. With a 30 million plus user base, this really could be the VR system for the masses. And I just can't imagine Sony selling a peripheral at a significantly more expensive price than that at which their flagship console sells. Don't forget, Sony is well versed in selling loss-leading hardware in order to profit from software. There is one more ace in the hole for Sony. They are starting to understand that my fiancée will never get gaming. She will most likely never be interested, but in the right situation she will play SingStar and Rock Band, and she rocks a mighty bow and arrow in Sports Champions because she could do these things socially, and they are just plain fun to play with groups of people. Sony are tapping into this social gaming with PSVR, and I have already shown several PSVR titles designed to be group experiences, and that is fantastic news for those that want VR on a budget, because the experience becomes shared in front rooms and with partners and families rather than hidden away in some high-tech man cave. Now if, and it is a big if, Sony have the NAS to go for it and puts their headsets out at a price range Oculus initially hinted at, then there will potentially be tens of millions of happy bunnies out there who will never take a second look at another headset, and I might just be one of them. Well, for a while at least. Anyway, it's been real. See ya!
This is Bam Striker, and you're listening to Bamster's podcast. My housemate was angry because he thought I ate all the chocolate.
And that was that. Thank you very much, Booker. Awesome. Right, guys, tonight we have a guest for you, and his name is Bam Stroker. Yes, 2 Bams do make a right. Bam, say hi.
Hi guys, and it is night where I am, so still technically correct.
Right. Awesome. Awesome sauce. Bam, do tell us a little bit about yourself. Where you're from, what you do, and how you came to be you.
Like you say, I'm Bam Stroker. I live in Australia. I'm heavily involved in the community for EVE Online, which is a spacefaring MMO that I know the other Bam here is familiar with, and perhaps some of your listeners as well. How did I come to be here? I probably just through relentless self-promotion and aggrandizement and habit of sticking my nose in anything I can find in the EVE community to try and help promote it and drive it and help with player retention and acquisition, things like that. I think it's a great game, and I've met a lot of really cool people playing it. And I'm kind of a little bit greedy in that when I meet those people, I want them to stay around and keep playing it so I can keep hanging out with them. And I also like to add even more cool people to keep me entertained and play the video game with.
Sounds a little bit like Bram Stoker.
Yeah, happy coincidence. This was just the name Bam Stoker comes from a drunken slur many years ago when I was trying to say Bram Stoker, and I liked it so much I decided to keep it. So that's sort of become my gaming name now, for better or worse. Mostly better, I like to think.
Can I just jump in here and say I feel slightly uncomfortable sitting between Bam and a Bam Stroker. Do you two need to be left alone?
No, but if you want to change your name, that's cool, man. Like we can fit in another Bam. There's room for everyone, baby.
Well, there's an Australian Bam and a South African Bam, 2 mortal enemies.
I fucking knew it! I knew it! I knew you were a Sapphire. But you've lived in the UK for a long time, haven't you?
I busted! I let that one slip, didn't I? Yeah.
Oh no! I totally picked it, man. Like so much of. But how long have you been in the UK?
Since 2003.
I knew it because your accent is very English, but every now and then when I was listening to the podcast, just a word here or there would just it would smack of. Well, I didn't necessarily pick South African, but certainly Southern African. Like you could be from Zimbabwe or something for all I know. But I was like, yeah, this guy started out on the, in the old world before he moved up to the UK.
I'm from the northern side. I can't be a Bam.
Come to the Bam Nation. Come over to the Bam Nation.
That's right, baby. There's a Bam with your name on it.
Yes, in Bam Nation, there is a Bam with your name on it. Come to the dark side,
we
my
are
pretty.
all Bam in one way or another.
Oh, I'm feeling the Bam Nation all right.
We could all get together in the Netherlands and have a meetup called Bamsterdam. It'd be amazing.
Bamsterdam! Oh shit!
It's a little bit further for me to come, but I'm willing to make that sacrifice. I hear there are fringe benefits to being, in the Netherlands.
Right then, Bam. We all know that you have your fingers in many pies, or as you said earlier on, your tentacles are many pies. Do tell us, what is EveBet.com?
EVE Online, and as with many MMOs, have spawned a lot of external third-party tools, for just trading characters, trading in-game items, and things like that. Usually, they sort of fill gaps that the game hasn't really got the mechanics for. One of the things which, thankfully, CCP Games, the company that makes EVE, is quite liberal with, is for people to find entrepreneurial ways to make in-game currency, which they call ISK, or Interstellar Credits. It's basically like gold in WoW. And eve-bet.com is the fruit of an idea that a friend of mine had about making a sports betting website, like a real sports betting website where you can bet on football, cricket, MMA, motorsports, you name it. Whereas in those sites you would go and bet, your real money. We made a website where you can bet the in-game currency, and that's facilitated through transferring some money in-game, and it's all within the confines of the terms of service in the EULA, so it's really quite good. So people who've got a bit of spare in-game currency, ISK, can go on to set up an account on eve-bet.com, create an account, bet on in-games, real-world sports with in-game currency, and if they win money, then they win money. If not, then they don't. But so it goes. They can experience a bit of betting, have a bit of fun without any sort of risking any real-world money out of it.
Can you also bet against or bet on in-game events, like who's going to take over which area or who's going to win which fight?
We don't, well, yes and no. We don't take bets on things like who can take over, who's going to when there's a bit of space, when there are wars and things like that, because that can be gamed, obviously. But there are things like the annual Alliance tournament that CCP does, which is sort of, has like CCP supervision and a very strict set of rules, and it's quite enforceable. So in those circumstances, yes. And in fact, that for us, that is actually our biggest single event of the year, is the annual Alliance tournament. So we do take bets on in-game events, and there are minor tournaments as well that happen. Like just recently, they did the Yamar Championships, which we also ran markets for. And on request, occasionally, if there is a player-run tournament, and we have discussions with the organisers, and we're confident that all the matches are going to be conducted fairly and well supervised, like the Eve NT Collides tournament that Nash Cadaver runs, which is a perfect example of like a well-run in-game tournament. We will also let them, if they want to, use eve-bet.com to take bets on their matches, because it obviously helps promote the event a lot more, and people are a lot more invested in these matches if they've got some skin in the game.
What about the other products that CCP has, like they're about to launch Valkyrie, they have Dust or Legion? Can we bet against those? Can we use the ISK or whatever currencies they have?
We haven't investigated the opportunities for anything to do with Dust. Frankly, not a lot of us know a great deal about the ecosystem of the game and how well that runs. I bought a PlayStation 3 specifically for Dust and played it a little bit, but I'm awful with the PlayStation controller, so I actually ended up sort of giving it away, much to my chagrin. Hopefully one day Dust will rise from the ashes like a phoenix, and we'll get an opportunity to try it out on a different platform, but we'll have to wait and see when or if that day is going to come. When it comes to Valkyrie, though, I'm very interested in the prospects for that, because it's clear that CCP pinning a lot of their kind of like broad esports hopes on Valkyrie, and it hopefully will become their flagship esports product, because even though they've been trying to do it at the Alliance tournament for the last 9 or 10 years, it hasn't really gained a lot of traction. I think that's because EVE Online as a game, particularly as a competitive game, is really, really dense, and it's hard for somebody who just sort of sees it on Twitch to tune into an Alliance tournament match and understand what's going on. Valkyrie, on the other hand, is essentially a first-person shooter with a Z-axis. So I think Valkyrie has great potential as an esport. And maybe in the months after Valkyrie is released, when it's a competitive scene will emerge, and that's something that eBet will be, participating in terms of hopefully sponsoring teams and having market fields for matches. But that's going to have to be something that emerges organically first before we can identify how we can sort of like bring that into our product.
I must admit, I agree with the EVE Online. I've been a Dust player, and I've seen EVE gameplay. I've looked at streams. I've looked at the events. I have no clue what's going on. But having read about it, I have a supply chain management background and realized I don't want to do that in a game. So yeah, I'm waiting for Valkyrie to see if that would be interesting, and it looks that way so far.
I first played it in 2013 when it was first unveiled at FanFest in Iceland. And I think since then I've played a subsequent build or iteration of it at every single FanFest or eVegas since. Apart from people in the alpha, I would probably dare say I'm one of the most seasoned Valkyrie players out there, just given the breadth of experiences I've had playing Valkyrie over such a long time frame.
Well, if you allow me a bit of self-promotion, go look at our KSP Valkyrie videos, where we show how not to play Valkyrie in KSP.
I've seen some, actually. It was one of the videos that Bam posted where his ship started to come apart just after he launched, and I think he says that, like, I'm going to fly this pig! I thought it was hilarious. So no, because he posts those videos on the Valkyrie subreddit. That's Valkyrie, not RE Valkyrie, but Valkyrie, and they're quite entertaining.
That was just a bit of a piss take. We've got another one coming out very, very soon. I just got to get the things made for it. You mentioned seasoned veteran of Valkyrie play. Well, I believe it's on. I've actually played an alpha version of it over at CCP Newcastle.
That's very convenient for you. Yeah,
it's very
how near
convenient.
are you to Gateshead? Are you right there?
Believe it or not, I live about. Quite literally, I can pick up a stone now and throw it at CCP Kirak. So, haha.
He's a good man.
Very, very close. Very close.
I've got to meet a lot of the devs from Newcastle. It's like Bosun, Terrashark, Kirak that you just mentioned, Starbug. They're a really great group of dudes. I'm looking forward to catching up with again at FanFest this year if they all get to make it again.
Definitely. Right, you mentioned that eValkyrie, you reckon, is going to be the esports model for CCP. Why do you say that? Because I don't see how it can be.
I don't see how it can't be.
Explain, because I honestly I don't think with the announcements of the Oculus being what $600 or £600 or whatever have you, I don't see how people can actually get into that market unless it's perhaps on the PS4, because the PS4 is going to be cheaper.
Oh, you mean the PlayStation VR / Morpheus is going to be cheaper than the Oculus Rift? Well, yeah, maybe so, but there's still going to be. I mean, okay, so the way I look at it, this right, ever since, and maybe I'm just like the perfect example of the VR rube. Ever since I was like 5 years old, I've been told that VR is just around the corner. Like it's gonna be here. It's gonna be here any minute. Like, trust me. And we're talking about like TV shows I watched when I was a kid, like the science shows where the people had like an enormous like fucking two CRT monitors strapped to their head with shitty triangle vector graphics and things like that. So I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for this for like 30 years of my life, and now it is here. It is real. I've tried it, and it's good. Nothing's going to stop me from getting my hands on that. And I know the $600 price point that was announced the other day is going to be a big disincentive to a lot of people who were expecting, $350, as we were probably, to be fair, led to believe, to $400. Are just not going to be able to get involved in it now. It's been priced out of them effectively. But there is still going to be a lot of people who are going to buy these things. There's going to be like the what is it? Something like 24 million PlayStation 4s are in lounge rooms around the world now. Not every one of those is going to buy a Morpheus, of course, but if enough do, then that's going to sort of like keep things moving along. And when it comes to CCP's perspective, they've actually got a very privileged position, being on the ground floor, and not only that, but having a game that every single person who buys this device is going to want to get. I mean, Valkyrie is the killer app, for the Oculus Rift and for the Morpheus. People are going to be buying it. If you buy the headset, you're going to get the game. I reckon it's almost going to be perfectly 1-to-1 that the people are going to have it. So, as I've explained, EVE Online is kind of dense as a multiplayer game, or rather, excuse me, an esport. It's hard to articulate. Dust, I think, is down to a concurrent user player base, player numbers of about 5,000 to 6,000 at peak times. That's not enough to make it sustainable, let alone have an audience for it when they're competing against other better known FPS experiences like CS:GO and Call of Duty. So EVE isn't their ticket to esports success. Dust isn't their ticket to esports success. Valkyrie, on the other hand, sure, maybe the price point is going to diminish the initial install base for people playing it, but the fact that they've essentially got a clean run with an exciting product, which has already demonstrated looks really cool. If you watch the tournament that they had at FanFest last year, people are going to be sitting down on their couches watching people play Valkyrie on Twitch, and these are people who aren't necessarily going to have a PC to run it, or can't afford an Oculus Rift, or even have a PlayStation 4. But they're still going to get eyeballs because, holy shit, it looks really, really interesting, and it's an exciting game to watch skilled people play.
Oh yes, Valkyrie is a very, very good-looking game, and it plays very well, very, very well.
Sorry for the 20-minute rant. I hope we actually got time.
No, dude, seriously, rant away, it's fine. Bam, do tell, do you have a PC to run Valkyrie, and what other games and tech are you into?
Well, yeah, I do. I actually bought a new PC just for the Oculus about a month ago. It's an i5 6600K with SLI GTX 970s and 16 gig RAM. So that should do it. And I pre-ordered my Oculus last night. So and so far as like other tech, like I am like pretty much a full-on VR tragic. I'm sitting here staring at my Gear VR right now. I've been playing with that on my S6 for like the last 3 or 4 weeks, and it's been fantastic. There's some really, really cool games. Obviously, you would expect me to be playing Gunjack, and I have, but some other fantastic games like Darknet. Every 2 or 3 months, my housemate and I put on like a big nerd shindig at the house where we invite all of our friends over. And we play like, party games on Steam like Towerfall Ascension, and we set up an old arcade emulator to play some Street Fighter 2, and we play Magic the Gathering and everything. And one of the biggest hits this weekend, last weekend when we held it, was Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. So my housemate and I both had Gear VRs, and people were defusing bombs left, right, and center. It was fantastic. They absolutely loved it. It was a really, really good thing to watch. So that's one of my nerdy, passionate things right now. In addition to, obviously, you play a lot of EVE Online. If you look at my Steam library, most games have between either 2 hours or less, or like 100 hours or more. It's really hard for me to find a game which I either I either pick it up, play it, and put it down again because I don't like it, or I pick it up and play it, and you just never get me away from it because I get obsessed with it.
Now, BAM, the stroker one, not the other one. I'm also told you're dealing with this Eve Down Under, which appears to be just a bunch of Eve players drinking a lot. What is it?
Well, you've pretty much captured the essence of it. The secret to Eve Down Under is that is really all it is, but we go through the trouble of putting on this multi-day player gathering in a hotel conference space in order to facilitate that. So Eve Down Under, and I've said this a lot, but hopefully none of you or none of your viewers have heard me say it, and it hasn't got to the ad nauseum stage. But Eve Down Under isn't so much a singular event, but it's more of like a community movement. The Australian time zone of EVE Online, and it's probably true to say of many MMOs, is left behind, what have you. But just because of geography, we usually have the fewest number of players online at any given time. Like the average concurrent play is low. And that usually means that space, because EVE Online is a single shard universe, so everybody plays on the same server, that means that space during the Australian prime time, our evening, which is pretty much like right now, is emptier compared to UK prime time or US prime time. And so in order to sort of, in a sense, the Australian players are all therefore in this like little lifeboat together, where we kind of like rely on each other for content. So Eve Down Under is sort of sprung up as this community movement to sort of like keep people engaged in the game, leave the in-game experiences and move to an out-of-game sort of format where people can go to the pub and they can hang out with other Eve players and talk to them about internet spaceships. To bring them together in a social context, like a lot of people are just like, wow, I didn't know there were other people like me. It's almost like a support channel, or something like that. So what started out as just a couple of like pub gatherings sort of ended up culminating in this big player gathering in 2012, which had about 150 or so people in it. And that was started off by my predecessor who ran the organization, RDNX. And then over the next few years, we in addition to like the tent pole events around the country, like meeting up in pubs in different cities and things like that, having the singular annual event, which was like the big gathering. We eventually went from like 150 people to a Skype call with the devs to like 200 people with one of the devs coming, to 230 people with 3 of the devs coming, to this one this year where we had about the same number of people, but we had 5 devs come all the way from the Iceland to hang out with us. So it's sort of like a mini fan fest in the Australian time zone for EVE players who normally can't sort of literally travel to the opposite side of the world. To go to Iceland, to go to FanFest, which they usually have at the, in March, April. We have ours in November. So that's what Eve Down Under is. It's the Australian time zone community coming together to celebrate this game, which we all love, but no other bastard gets. And there's something really, really validating about getting to hang out with people who get it the same way that you get it.
CCP Mimic, is a fellow Safa, South African. I am very surprised she didn't...
No, she's Zimbabwean.
Still a South African. She's a Wendy, still a South African.
She's a Southern African.
No.
She's not from South Africa.
Same brush, I'm tarring her with the same brush, bro. I am very surprised she didn't instantly ignite the minute she hit Australian soil. Why didn't she? What did you do?
She loves Australia. She actually, the first time she came to Eve Down Under, in 2014, she wasn't actually one of the first devs picked to come along. We had to like really twist some arms to get her sent down. She came along, and once she came down and went to EDU, she went back and she was basically like a shoe-in for the next one. Here's something. After Eve Down Under 2013, I sent out a survey to all the people who came, and I was like, pick your CCP devs that you would like to see next year. And number 1 was like CCP Guard, who is the lead community developer. He's very, very well known. He sings in the Streamer band.
The mini-me. He's the mini-me.
Yeah, he's basically like the rock star dev as far as CCP goes to the community. He was number 1. And then after him, there was like Daylight in the responses. And then you had like the other well-known devs like CCP Fozzie, and things like that. I think Mimic was about 7th or 8th. That year, CCP Mimic was one of the devs that they sent Eve Down Under. And a month or 2 later, I sent out another survey saying, okay, so which dev would you like to come to Eve Down Under in 2015? And now it was CCP Mimic was number 1, and then Daylight, and then CCP Guard at number 2. So the reason she didn't catch fire, I think, is because she's already smothered with love of the Australian time zone community. She loves the Australian time zone, and the Australian time zone loves Mimic. She's amazing. You're familiar with downtime, right?
The bane of my existence.
The bane of your existence. What time is downtime where you live, sir?
11 o'clock, sir.
11 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, sir.
In the morning.
Why do you think I'm doing the podcast during downtime?
Yeah. Do you know what time downtime is in the Australian time zone?
Fairly late.
It's usually around between about 9 p.m. Basically smack bang in the middle of our prime time. The best time for Australians to play is when downtime occurs. And if you're not familiar with EVE Online, downtime is the daily server maintenance. And the server goes down for anywhere between 5 minutes and 20 minutes, usually, just so they can sort of like sweep out all the cobwebs and restart it. And it used to be much longer. It used to be like an hour long, which was actually a really, really big deal. And they've got it down more often than not down to less than 10 minutes now, which you think would be a great advance. And in some respects it is, but in other respects, the fact that it still exists at all for an Australian time zone player is a huge pain in the ass, because whatever you're in the middle of doing, you have to stop doing it. So even though downtime is only 5 minutes long right now, to your typical Australian time zone player, that still represents almost like 45 minutes of just like prime time slashed because of the interruption that it causes. So, oh man, I've gone off on one of my psycho rants about like, oh, how much I hate downtime. But the fact is, it is a pain in the ass, and it's like all these like, you know, these little paper cuts, you know, the downtime thing, the low player count, and probably a few other things I could sort of gripe on about being in the Australian time zone, which I think basically gives all the Australian time zone players the same chip on their shoulder, and that is why that they are so ready to sort of like put the differences aside and just identify as like, yeah, you know what I'm going through, you go through it as well. It's like, let's drink beer and complain about that and then go shoot other people in the face.
Well, I'm going to imagine the downtime is when all the space hamsters come out to play. That's when it's safe from you people shooting them.
Yeah, CCP lets them out, hoses down the cages, and any that don't actually find themselves outside in Iceland and like snap freeze, they just like jam back in and start winding up the wheels again, like, you know, 10 minutes later.
Okay, from one BAM to another, please do tell me about this Care for Kids. I have noticed you've got your tentacles in that. What is it? Where is it? How does it start?
All right, well, the actual origins of it, I might get a couple of these details wrong, but essentially what it revolved around was an EVE player. I think it was actually Belgian. His in-game name is C4WE, and he was attending hospital. Can't remember if it was whether it was for his own illness or for his daughter's, but it came to his attention there were a lot of kids who were at the hospital and, you know, undergoing treatment or with people getting treatment, and were very, very bored. So he started off this Care for Kids charity as a way to give these kids something to do. And he began soliciting in-game donations, even in-game donations in EVE Online from other players in the form of in-game money or game time or items, so that he could set up accounts so that his kids would have would be able to play EVE or learn to play EVE and just sort of like kill time and enjoy themselves while they were in, you know, obviously a pretty sort of unfortunate situation. And it seems to have gone really, really well. And he's raised a lot of money, and we've certainly done some support for his project, you know, through EveBet and other means. One of the great things that has come out of EVE Online is there's a whole bunch of charities which are supported by various EVE players. There's a community movement called Broadcast for Reps, which is an in-game movement, which is sort of promoting people with, you know, any sort of like depression or anxiety to reach out and find people to talk to. There are in-game channels that support that as well. Speaking from Eve Dunham's perspective, this year we supported a charity called Beyond Blue, which is an Australian charity which helps fight anxiety and depression, and we raised nearly $5,500 over the course of the weekend for them. There's a myriad of different ways in EVE players have sort of like stepped up to try and fill these niches and try and help each other, which is a beautiful thing. I've sort of strayed away from the original Care for Kids thing that you're talking about, but that while it's awesome, it is still only just one of many ways that EVE play community sort of rallies together and tries to raise money for good causes.
And if anybody wants to get involved with the charity sort of side of things, where do they have to go? What's the website? Where do they find the websites, and how do they get there?
All right, a lot of stuff is conducted in-game. The Care for Kids, which is run by, like I said, his in-game name is kind of complex. Sounds strange, but C4WE. That's Charlie, number 4, Whiskey, number 3. If you're an EVE player, you look at his bio, there'll be lots of details there about how you can donate and contribute. Broadcast for Reps, there's an in-game channel called Broadcast number 4 Reps, all one word, that you can join. But you can even just go onto the EVE subreddit and just put, do a post and put Broadcast for Reps, as many people have in their topic. And if you don't necessarily just want one-on-one conversation with people, some people quite come out and just say, hey man, I'm having a hard time, and they'll get like dozens of replies, and they're always very, very supportive. The Beyond Blue thing was obviously external and unique to Eat Down Under, but beyondblue.org.au is that charity. And whenever CCP do an event like eFanFest or eVegas, they also get behind a number of charities. They've raised hundreds of thousands of dollars through their initiative called Plex for Good for the Icelandic Red Cross, which, the Icelandic Red Cross obviously benefits like people all around the world. They had charity drives on the back of the Philippines typhoon and the Fukushima earthquake and all those kinds of things, and they made insane amounts of money, which went to really, really good causes. And there's a Icelandic, I won't even attempt to pronounce it, but an Icelandic children's hospital that they raise funds for when they do charity auctions at eVegas and eFanFest, which they make thousands of dollars worth as well.
Right. CES. What are your impressions of CES as a whole?
Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not a great observer of CES. It's I do pay attention to what happens in a lot of the gaming trade shows, but CES is such a broad a broad show that it covers everything from like calculators to the aforementioned Oculus Rifts and gaming consoles and things like that.
Well, I think CES, it's just the area it covers, the floor space, is something like the size of the Vatican State by now. Good
crazy.
Following that, I mean, it's impossible.
Yeah. How do you consume everything that comes out of that? Like, I don't mean the physically purchasing the products, but just the amount of news and the amount of information. Like, I think most people are probably like me, to be perfectly honest. They have a product that they're interested in, that they've been following along with. Maybe it's a new phone, or some other sort of like gadget, or in this case VR. And they know CES is where some new information about that is going to emerge, and so they just followed that trail of breadcrumbs. And like I said before, the rest of it is pretty much all just white noise. Things could happen, but you're not really dialed into that.
Ultimately, I'm just following things like a company you probably haven't heard about, Bragi, a German company making a new headphone, because that I'm interested in it, and I've kind of sponsored part of it via Kickstarter, So yeah, I'm following that, but the amount of information is otherwise overwhelming.
That is esoteric as hell. That is exactly what I'm talking about. It's like, that's what your jam is for the CES, and maybe 2 or 3 other things. And we're talking about an individual who has an interest in half a dozen things coming out of CES, when there's like 2,000 things coming out in total.
I think you guys have got a good point there. How do you take in all the 35 football fields worth of information and content being launched by well over 2,000 companies? It's just mind-blowing how they can actually fit all that stuff into that. It's scary almost. I'm now going to ask you your bacon question. Bam. Awesome. Sweet. Bam. Do you eat bacon? And if so, what bacon would you like to have in a perfect world? And what beer or beverage do you want served with it?
Okay. So, yes, I eat bacon. I love bacon. I'm not a religious man, but it's probably the closest I've ever come to sort of, that sort of experience. I like my bacon a little bit overcooked, so it's like crispy, so I like to pick up a bacon rasher and be able to hold it and it stays straight. And then like when I bite it, like snaps off crisply, I don't like limp bacon. So that's my preference for bacon. And if I'm eating bacon and I'm having beer with it, like a Duvel is a very strong beer. I think probably G is familiar with it. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'm familiar with the Duvel. Let's say we have a lot of them here in Belgium for some reason.
Yeah, who'd have guessed, right? So it's a very strong beer, and it's good. And I've noticed a lot of like high, really, really strong, sort of even darker beers have a very almost like meaty taste to them, as it were. It sounds kind of strange, but there's something about the smokiness of the beer which really evokes, like a smoked meat, like a bacon or something like that. So probably like a Duvel, lots of Duvels and lots of really crispy, dare I say, overcooked bacon is pretty much my jam.
Well, I was afraid you would say something like you wanted kangaroo bacon and Foster's.
Oh yeah. Okay, so like as an Australian, this comes up a lot. I need to point this out. Like I've had Foster's maybe twice in my life. Like you can't get Foster's in Australia. It's an export only beer. Everything you've heard about Foster's being Australian for beer is actually bullshit.
You're
Hang on.
Hang on.
Whoa. Hang on. You telling me Australians don't drink Foster's? You're telling me they don't eat kangaroo bacon, and you're telling me you've got to import your own bloody beer? God damn it!
Well, no. Yes and no. Like the Australians don't drink Foster's. You can't get it in most pubs. If you do want to buy it, you have to go to a place that sells exotic beers and hope, because it's an export only beer. So yeah, you usually buy it in the import section, even though it's made in, some of it's probably made in Australia. Most of it's made overseas under a license. When it comes to eating kangaroos, we love that shit. I don't know if I've ever had kangaroo bacon, but Jesus Christ, kangaroo steak is fucking divine. So we eat the shit out of kangaroos. And what was the third part of your assertion?
Got to import your own beer. What?
Got to import our own beer. Yeah, it's pretty much true, but that's only because we don't drink it here and we just get rid of it anyway. So there you go. Most popular Australian beers are sort of like locked into a state. So like if you're not familiar with Australia, we're like you've got about 7 states on the mainland, and every state has 1 or 2 signature beers that are sort of like almost you're almost required to drink if you live in that state. So my state, I had the fortunate distinction of living in a state which actually does have a very, very good domestic beer. The brewery is called Cooper's, and the beer is Cooper's Pale Ale, and I do love a Cooper's Pale Ale. It's a very, very good beer. I feel bad for people who live in Queensland because the only beer they've got to drink up there is 4X, which is absolutely appalling. It's like abysmal, shocking beer.
This is going to sound a bit odd, but believe it or not, I've actually got myself and actually made myself a Cooper's beer brew kit. So
there you go.
Yeah, and it's delicious. Delicious.
Is it a particular variety that the brew kit makes?
Pick your poison, dude. I went for the lager. Love the lager. Okay, I know lager's not technically beer, but at the end of the day, it's yellow, it's got a head, it tastes delicious with bacon. Yes.
Yeah, there you go.